Welcome to the last episode of Season 3 of the Giant series on It's a Mimic. We're back with more Giants in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. But in this season, we're digging into all the information that we could find in the Bigby Presents Glory of the Giants. I'm Megan, and of course joining me today is Casey.
This episode focuses on Death Giants and the Storm Herald, as well as giving you a brief breakdown on all the other giants from the book that we've already covered on the regular show. But before we get started, of course, we have one final wine.
One final wine!
Yes, and I am a sucker for a label all the time.
Dude, this label's sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, when I was walking around thinking, how the fuck am I going to pick a wine that relates to death?
Yeah.
This one is an imagery that is shaped in a skull.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, that's it.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's a skull. Yeah.
Yes. So this is a Shiraz that is called Skulls. And it is from Australia.
It's an Australia one, yeah.
Yeah. So last episode we had an Australian, and we're finishing things off with
Finishing strong with Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They done well with their label.
They really did.
It's the perfect way to end.
It's really pretty. It's like, again, it's a skull, but it's like a bunch of different images create the skull.
Like from far away it looks like a skull, but up close it's a tree, and there's like a basket thing, and yeah.
Trick of the eye.
Yep. So it better be good.
Well, I mean, it's another red that I'm hoping we don't need to let breathe, but we'll find out.
That seems to be a theme this season as well.
Yeah, let the fucking red wine breathe.
Cheers.
Right, cheers. Oh, she's thick.
I would say she maybe needs to breathe a time.
Yeah. It's one of those wines where there's not a lot of flavor at first, but very thick and like very full-bodied, so you know that it's going to get good.
Yeah. Oh, eating like a steak or something with that would be delightful. We don't do that on this season, so
yeah, we don't eat, so we just consume the wine and then hope for the best, really. But yeah, this is definitely like a thick steak wine for sure. But
we bought it for the label. It's perfect.
It's beautiful.
Perfect for today.
All right, well, let's jump right into Death Giant. So let me hit you with some Death Giant lore. So we all know that during the war between the Giants and the Dragons, there was a risk of all the Giants' empire going extinct. So due to their dwindling numbers and hard-fought battles, basically a group of Giants traveled down to the Shadowfell in an attempt to find a way to preserve their lives, basically. They're like, the undead figured it out. Maybe they can keep us.
The dead figured out not to be undead.
Yeah, right. They're alive, but they're not alive. Like, Jesus.
What could go wrong?
So in their travels, it is said that they were basically I wrote the word neutered, and I don't know why. But I know, like, okay, so in their travels, they did come across I did write that, right? I put neutered in there.
It does say neutered.
Oh. You know what? I type really fast.
Autocorrect.
I type really fast when I'm doing these notes. Jeepers.
They were new.
I got it. I know what I'm gonna say. I just need you to relax.
Okay, sorry. It's the wine.
It's true. So in their travels, it is said that they were kind of were tricked into a gambling wager with the Raven Queen herself. And no one actually knows how the wager played out. Some myths say that the Raven Queen answered a whole bunch of riddles they had until they tired themselves out and then just submitted to her.
I mean, I can see a lot of women doing that. It's like, fine.
Just a whole bunch of well-actually facts until, like, the man just dies, you know? So... Anyways, that's one of the myths, but no one actually knows on paper what happened. In the end, the Raven Queen was victorious against the Giants, and they became the servants of the Raven Queen and have basically stayed there since.
I love that it is the Raven Queen.
Right?
That has the Death Giants.
It's so cool.
Like,
Yeah. She would. She would, you know? So I feel like the Raven Queen speaks to all of us when we say, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. And with the first with all that, the first set of death giants was created. Over time of being within the Shadowfell, of course, their bodies adjusted and shifted, their skin tones changed, whole 9 yards, all that kind of stuff, as they adapted to the planes that they were on, essentially becoming undead, death, XYZ. Mm-hmm. So, that is that. That is basically the history of death giants and how they came to be.
And we've talked in other episodes about upcoming episodes even, about this dynamic between giants and dragons. Mm-hmm. I do think they don't really cover it very much in the books.
No.
It's more external lore and just like you can pull bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But I do love it. And I wish that they did speak more about the Raven Queen and this whole history of giants versus dragons.
Yeah, like even in the book, when it describes that they had dwindling numbers and that they were losing, like they just felt that they were going to go extinct, and so they went traveling for this Raven Queen or for anybody in the Shadowfell to help them. They didn't even say that it was because of the dragon versus the giants' war. And I'm just like, but it probably was.
Yes.
Like
there was a scenario of dragons taking over and other species having to flee, other powerful species having to flee.
Yeah, so DM discretion, but like again, there's not a lot of information out there in terms of like, you know, Bigby's book was very hyper-focused, so I understand why it's not in this book.
Yeah.
But I wish that it was.
Yeah, they could have touched on, like, the conflicts, or, like, what's your biggest enemy?
Yeah.
It would have been dragons. And then they could have spoke to this lore a bit more.
A little bit more.
But it's fine.
I digress.
We still love the book.
We do. So we're going to be covering a bunch of death giants today. So the first one that I am going to be covering is the Death Giant Reaper. So the Death Giant Reaper, not a whole lot of lore about this.
It's probably exactly what you think.
Yes, exactly. Their abilities and stats do kind of paint a nice picture for you, but what they do and what their purpose is not really fine-tuned. So visually, they look like a classic humanoid giant, but with that purple-hued skin that represents the fact they've been in the Shadowfell for a long time. And they have a weird, very large, scary-looking scythe.
Oh, yeah. There it is.
Yeah.
It looks like a lightsaber.
Correct. That's why I said weird-looking. It's just like a glowing lightsaber scythe that it carries.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, as you can see, the lore blurb is half a paragraph.
Oh, yeah.
Not even.
That's 2 sentences.
Yep. It just says, yeah, it's a reaper.
Everyone knows what a reaper does. This is a giant one.
It's a giant version of one.
Okay, fair.
But yeah. Stat-wise, they are a CR of 12, so they are above average in all of their stats, but specialize in strength and con with a +8 and a +5. But they have a multi-attack with their scythe or their soul bolt. So their scythe is a +12 to hit with a 15-foot fucking reach.
Yeah, look at that thing.
Yeah, she's hefty. It's a 3d8 +8 slashing and 2d10 necrotic damage. And then their soul bolt is a ranged spell attack of 8 +8 to hit, 4d10 +4 necrotic, and the target is frightened. And the giant gains, if the target is frightened already, the giant gains temporary hit points equal to the damage that it delivers.
Okay, so it just, sucks a little more
takes a little bit of your soul, you know? Which brings me to my final point, which is their bonus action, which is called Frightening Teleport. It recharges on a 4 to 6, so we commonly see 5 to 6. This one's a nice hefty 4 to 6, and basically means that the giant can teleport anywhere it can within 40 feet, and anyone within 10 feet of it makes a DC 16 Wisdom save or be frightened. So that's your opener. You pop in, you go boo, and then you scare everybody around you, and then you just start whacking.
Yeah, and sucking souls with a bolt.
So I do feel that based on those abilities, you can kind of get the idea that it's a Reaper, but not a whole hell of a lot.
Like, so I have binged a lot of Supernatural in the last few months.
Yeah.
And so I instantly think of Billy as the Reaper.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, okay, because I'm like, first I'm like, frightening teleport. I'm like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, well, in Supernatural, because it is a source of truth for many, many of us, Billy just, like, shows up and is like, hello, and she has her scythe and, has her, it's not necessarily frightening because actually she's very attractive. But, okay, so I can see that they bamf in. And so I can relate to bamfing in, and if you're scary like this, you would then invoke frightened conditions.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I don't quite understand it in terms of D&D.
Yeah.
I digress.
It has no purpose whatsoever.
Why that?
I don't know. There's so much more they could have done with this.
Yeah.
So much more that you could, especially with tying into the Raven Queen and the sucking of legitimate souls.
Yes.
Why are you, you bore me. Why are you so boring?
Why is the soul bolt a ranged spell attack and not a touch suck the soul, or even a ranged, like where it's like a ray where you're pulling?
Yeah.
Like, and
so you would have to get, this is the thing though, you would have to get really creative as a DM on how to make this make sense. Like, and there's an opportunity to be creative on why there would be a Reaper running around doing what they do in terms of in service to the Raven Queen, or in service to another god or XYZ that the Raven Queen has lended them out to, right? Like, there's so much opportunity for story that I'm kind of pissed they didn't pick one. So I'm sure that there is something written somewhere in another edition that I just have not dug up. But at the end of the day, we're talking about Bigby. Is it? I said Bigby. Did I say Bigby right? Bigsby. No.
No, Bigby.
I'm right. Sorry. It's the wine.
It's the wine.
My friend's cat's name is Bigsby.
Oh my god, that would so fuck you up.
It trips me up every time mentally. Anyways, we're talking about this book in particular, and in this book in particular, there's not a whole hell of a lot that they give you.
Yeah.
So I'm slightly disappointed in it, but there is a lot of wiggle room for, again, DM creativity on how to use it. The stat block is neat, the abilities are kind of cool, but I feel like you gotta spice that shit up.
Yeah. Because even, like, the scythe, the visual and art is astounding.
Yes.
And then the damage is just slashing and necrotic. But it looks like a fucking lightsaber.
It does.
Can we flavor that up a little bit?
Something.
I don't know.
Give me something.
Sort of, like, burning flesh, primarily necrotic something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Like, it slices your hand off and it will never grow back.
Yeah. Like some sort of
something.
long-term shit.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you get sliced by this, immediately scarred. Like, it's like, again, it's like getting sliced by a lightsaber. It's going to be immediately cauterized. I know we're leaning into lightsaber, but it looks like one.
It does. If you look in the book, that's what you see.
Fucking lightsaber. But even if it, even again, we're talking about these, like, the harbingers of death. Like, these are supposed to be, in my brain, top tier undead giant aspects. Mm-hmm. And this just feels to me like peasant.
Like supernatural.
Yes. So, anyways, I'm sure, again, there's many creative ways to use them. I would use them in my game, but they are base. You're going to have to build off of it.
Yeah, and I really like that they did integrate the Raven Queen aspect, but they just didn't give enough.
Right?
They could have went into more of that. So try and do your own work and research on that aspect to link it up. Yeah. Maybe one of your PCs, especially if your PC has the love and connection to the Raven Queen, because, shit went wrong many days ago or weeks ago in your campaign, and so now you've saved someone because of the Raven Queen, then bring this in and it might have bigger impact.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Or, and in my mind, these are the things that the Raven Queen will send after you if you fucked up.
Yeah.
So,
like, when you have fulfilled your deal that you made with the Raven Queen, this is what comes after you to collect your soul.
Yeah.
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 That's a cool story.
Right? What? That would have been 2 sentences, Wizards of the Coast. And I would have been more bought in. Anyway.
Yeah.
I digress. The next one is a lot more interesting.
Okay, good.
So, my next one is the Death Giant Shrouded one. So, the Death Shrouded ones are basically the Raven Queen's wizards or sorceresses, etc., having said to potentially have learned death magic from the Raven Queen herself. So, immediately ties it into the Raven Queen.
Okay.
Which we love.
I like it. Yep.
They collect the skulls and bones of the dead and use them to carve their magical runes into them, specifically a death rune. Their scythe is forged from the dead souls it carries with them and is surrounded by those souls. Already better.
Okay.
I'm already in.
Yeah.
So the art is badass. Basically, it looks like a shrouded robed humanoid covered in skulls with a soul scythe, and the skulls are obviously in the imagery for scale. So if you look at the size of the skulls in comparison to the size of the humanoid, very large giant, right?
Yeah.
We're reminded that they are a giant. But the coolest thing is the fact that they are literally surrounded by the souls of the dead that they have reaped.
Yeah.
So, like, this already screams Reaper to me more than whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah. And coincidentally, because of the book organization, they are side by side on the page.
Yeah.
And so you can see this is like necromantic death energy making the scythe with like tendrils of black and then the swirling souls. Mm-hmm. Lightsaber.
Lightsaber.
Like, ow!
I feel like that was the product of AI art, and I just want to...
Oh, man.
Yeah, because this book was problematic for that, and so sometimes when I look at stuff, I'm like, what were you thinking? I'm like, okay, AI, thanks very much.
Because, okay, the reaping scythe visual could have easily been the scythe on this one. Mm-hmm. Like, it could have been the same imagery. Like that could have been here, and then they could have even done something even more for this
I'm
one.
getting what I want. So, like, I am feeling, of course, that, like, the Reaper is probably more like the martial grunt, whereas this one is more like the wizard smart one. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting more out of this one already than I did out of the other one.
Yeah.
And in my brain, they're the same thing. But.
I know. All right, continue.
So, they are a CR of 15. They're boosted in strength and this time intelligence with a +8 and a +6. Their main ability is the death rune. So that's what I spoke to, the fact that they carve these into the skulls and bones that they carry with them. So, and they pretty much carve it everywhere. So while this creature holds one of its precious skulls that has the death rune attached, this is what boosts their abilities. So this means they can use their scythe as an attack option. Otherwise, they could not use their scythe. It is required that the death rune skull is held for them to wield their scythe itself. So that's something to keep in mind, and a little bit of a little tip and trick you can give your players in a clever way as a DM.
Get rid of the skull, get rid of the scythe.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that being said, let's get into its attacks. So it can use a multi-attack with 3 soul bursts, as the ability soul bursts. And then as mentioned, they do have, if they have the skull handy, they can use their scythe 3 times. Yeah. So if they don't have their skull, they will only use soul bursts. If they have their skull, they can use their scythe. So Soul Bursts is a ranged melee attack of +11 to hit, a 10-foot reach, and is a 4d10 +6 necrotic damage. And similar to the Reaper, if the creature is frightened, they gain that amount of temp hit point back as well. So they already have the same fucking reaping ability. Yeah. What are we doing here? Mm-hmm. The Reaping Scythe is a more frightening one. So it is the melee spell attack of +11 to hit with a fucking 15-foot reach, so still has the same reach. Okay. It is 7d10 necrotic, and the target cannot regain hit points until the end of its next turn. Yeah. Auto death if they hit 0 hit points in this way. And remember, if they have the skull, they can hit you with this 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the art shows it like cradling the skull, and it has like the runes on its forehead. Like it's like, haha.
Correct. So they are also spellcasters on top of that with intelligence, which is why we see that boosted intelligence stat. They can cast Detect Magic, Mage Armor, and use Speak with the Dead and Tensor's Floating Disc 3 times per day. So very simple, very basic spells, but very much speaks to the fact that they are spellcasters and magic users, right? Yeah. It also has that Frightened Teleport bonus attack that the Death Giant Reaper had, but also as a Shroud of Soul has a Shroud of Souls bonus action that does require the skull. But basically this means the giant shrouded one can cover itself in the floating souls around it. And if you're within 5 feet, it is a DC 19 wisdom save or have disadvantage on saving rolls until the end of your next turn. The thing to note here is that the shroud lasts up to 1 minute after the whole thing after the rune is destroyed, or even if the shrouded one dies.
So you are basically like, you feel those souls like flow through your body.
Oh yeah.
And you are fucked up. And then it doesn't matter if someone else or you deals the ending blow to this shrouded one. Yeah. You are still fucked up.
Correct. If you're close enough, you'll still probably be fucked up. But in my brain, I read the first one, the Reaper, and I was like, oh, that's nice. You bore me. Mm-hmm. And then I read the other one. I'm like, why do we even have the other one?
Yeah. Yeah.
You like, if I was the Raven Queen, I'd be like, get out. Ship up. She's like, ship up or ship out. Like, I don't know what you're doing here.
Yeah. I agree.
It's like,
why
for me, the Shrouded one would be like, why am I keeping a Death Reaper around when I can do what it does 30 times better?
Yeah. And, like, they kept even, like, it's a scythe still.
Yeah.
So it's not even...
Has all the same abilities.
They just didn't want to call it a Reaper.
Yeah. It's basically like that person that you accidentally hired thinking they could do the job and then they couldn't. And so you just have them hanging around forever, but you can't fire them for some reason.
Yeah.
This is what that screams to me.
I 100% understand what you're talking about.
Anyone who works in corporate knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It's like, all right, so now our long game is the next 2 years to try and get rid of them.
Great. For the next 4 years.
Because he actually wanted the Shrouded one.
Yeah. And we got our Shrouded one, but for some reason Kevin's still around.
Yeah.
So
God damn it.
So you gave Kevin the base responsibilities, but you give him nothing else after that. So, and here's the thing, I'm shitting on them, but like there is a reason and a purpose to have them there. I understand that. Like, especially if you're doing different tiered combat, because what's the CR of the Reaper again? It was...
The Reaper is 12.
And we jumped to a 15, right?
Yeah.
So you are definitely getting a promotion going to the next level.
You are.
But at the same... So, like, if you're playing with tiers, you could do either or. But I definitely feel like the Reaper would be working for the Shrouded one.
Yeah. Like, I would rather have a bigger reveal with the Death Giant Shrouded one and skip the Reaper.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're leaning towards a Reaper-esque encounter, like, or something's hunting you or coming for you, or you're going to have to go find a soul and pull it away, something, skip this.
Yeah.
And just go in for the kill.
I was thinking a good storyline, if you wanted to use both of them, would be that you face the regular Reaper at some point in time. You go to the Shadowfell, you face the regular Reaper, you fight them, one of your PCs die, and you think that you kill it, but it technically is still holding onto your character's soul. You find this out later down the line through magic and D&D, that the soul is still alive, the Reaper is still alive, you have to go back and kill the Reaper. And you're like, oh, we did that already.
Oh,
we
easy.
could definitely take it on. You get down there, and it's actually turned into a Shrouded one because it got a promotion.
Yeah.
So it's a good scaling.
Campaign 2 to campaign 3, something like that.
It's a good scaling between the two. But it's very rare that I actually see something so blatantly, this is a promotion of whatever that was.
Yeah.
I mean,
side by side on the page.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
We see it every once in a while, like, especially in, like, the last couple episodes when we talked about how some of the elemental giants or what have you were just promoted versions of the regular giants, which does make sense, but side by side, they look and feel so different.
Yeah.
These ones feel the same. One is just obviously better than the other.
Yeah. And, like, the art, like, I know we're like, destroying the art because of the lightsaber thing.
With this book, I think we're allowed to.
But the rest of the art, if you ignore the lightsaber thing, it looks like, again, a very badass, armored, like, female.
Undead Drow Knight is what it looks like to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, like, is holding, like, a helmet and is standing amongst all dead, like its environment is dead. Like, it looks like I fucking dare you to, like, go into combat with me. Solid art. So it's great. It's just not quite there.
The stat block is the size of my thumb.
Yeah.
You know? Like, in comparison to some of the other ones that we cover.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're getting into the big guns here.
I know.
What is this trash that you've provided? Anyways.
Yeah.
So that's those two. Before we move on to the next round, do we want to do a mid-episode top-up?
We do. We do want to do that.
Anyways, I'm sorry I got spicy, listeners, but I just...
Hey,
I
it's
feel
the
so
finale
passionate.
Of the season. You gotta get spicy at this point.
I hear ya. I feel like the last couple episodes have been extra spicy, but, you know. I blame the wine.
Yeah, it's always the wine.
Yep.
Okay. Let's move on to something that I feel did not disappoint.
Great.
In the descriptor, the traits, the art as well. We are entering the Storm Herald. We are going into the ocean depths.
All right.
Where we will find very, very old and alien beings waiting to rise, such as krakens, great old ones, and aboleths. Storm giants. may find themselves with these creatures. As we know, they are isolates and prefer solitude in many cases. Or they may be fulfilling a prophecy and finding more information about a vision.
I always think of them on coastal caves in yeah.
And sometimes they get a little too deep.
Sure. Much as we always do.
Yeah. And if corrupted by these other creatures, the storm giant transforms into the Storm Herald. They grow fins and tentacles and sadly are controlled by the one who transformed it.
Oh, that's fucked.
I know! It's storm giants!
Who the fuck has the ability to control a storm? Oh, I guess if we're in like Aboleths.
Yeah, we're Kraken's great old ones, Aboleths. Oh, right?
Sure, okay.
But it's still fucking sad.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
And with that transformation gains psychic powers and may even try to then sway other storm giants to do the transformation and gather cultists to serve their master. So it's like, hey, come over, look how awesome I look. Like, it's great. And like the art is pretty great. I would say it's a little Medusa looking, merfolk looking with like fins that actually look like armor. Yeah, like it's scary. Yeah.
I do like the art. Like the giant trident is dope.
Yeah, and there's a trident.
Yeah.
But coming to the end of season 3, knowing all we know, knowing about storm giants and all of the different things, it's sad.
It is sad.
I feel sad that they become servants to another master. It's a sad idea.
It is a sad idea, but I do like the concept that the only thing strong enough to do so are these types of creatures.
Yeah, like gods.
Yeah.
And incredibly powerful evil monsters.
Yeah, and the fact that they would want a storm giant like this as part of their armament, right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of players wouldn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Right?
And so you're tugging at the emotional damage here once again.
Yeah, very much so.
Anyways, looking at their stat block.
Fair enough.
They are an AC of 16, and they are water dwellers now. So they have a 50-foot movement speed and a 100-foot swim speed. All stats are well above average, and they are skilled in Arcana, Deception, and Perception. They have the resistances to cold and psychic damage and immune to lightning and thunder damage, which also I find interesting because they are underwater and lightning. I just feel like that doesn't go together, but we are merging worlds now.
I feel like it's because if a lot of their abilities have lightning and thunder damage, you have to explain why they're not being hurt themselves by being in the water.
Yeah.
So they would have to have that resistance. They have to have it.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, like, if they use their lightning, they can't be fucked up while they just royally fuck up everything else.
Correct. Yeah. So it's just a way of mechanically explaining that they're not hurting themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thunder underwater. Interesting. Yeah. They are also immune to charmed and frightened conditions. They are huge in size, and they are considered an aberration, typically lawful evil, and we are now at a CR of 17. We are up there. They have telepathy of 120 feet, which they use for attacks, not just to talk.
Yeah.
And so we'll get into that. They have magic resistance and a plethora of attack options, including multi-attack with a claw, a tentacle, and a trident. The average total damage would be 57 hit points of damage between slashing, bludgeoning, and piercing with claw, tentacle, trident. So it's just like, Jesus Christ. And the trident also does an average of 13 lightning damage as well, because it's a trident. The tentacles can grapple you, but it can only grapple one creature at a time. Because I feel like they're on the head, so it's like, okay, fair. It can only like fit and grapple one creature at a time.
Yeah.
But it's there. It can also use Psychic Wave, which is a recharge of 6. So that means like it's harsh when it's only a recharge of 6. It unleashes psionic energy into the minds of up to 3 creatures it can see within 90 feet of itself. Each creature must make a DC 21 intelligence save or take 3d10 psychic damage and be stunned for 1 minute.
Amazing.
Right? We're into psychic damage.
Yeah, that's cool. And I like that. I think that suits storm giants, right? Yeah.
And it suits water. I don't know why, but it suits the, like, I don't know.
Sonar wavelengths. Like, we're trying to make a connection here that doesn't actually exist, but it's going to get there.
But you get it. It's like, oh yeah, you can, like, move, like, you can fuck me
and
up
I don't
from
know
far
why.
away.
I think it's because of the whole concept that fish can communicate through, like, how they swim and travel together. And, like, through, like, the waves of water and how they feel. Yeah. I feel like that feels very storm giant to me.
Yes, you absolutely accept that it can do psychic damage.
100%. There's no
90
question.
feet.
I question none of it. Yeah.
Yes, and so on a success of that intelligence save, you take half damage only, and then you can repeat the save at the end of each of your turns to end the effect.
Cool.
But being stunned is also awful. You know,
especially if you're in water.
From a monk.
Yeah.
Being stunned in water would be really awful and problematic.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So the Storm Herald also has spellcasting using intelligence. At will, it can cast Detect Magic, Detect Thoughts, and Mage Hand. And they're in water. The Mage Hand is invisible.
Amazing.
Like, I'm like,
that's
yes,
so
it is.
cool.
And then once per day, control waves, control weather as an action, or cast sending. So I greatly appreciate that it's leaning into the storm giant piece of, like, detect magic, detect thoughts. Like, it's the inquisitive, like, let me see what the situation here is.
Yeah. And
it's a fucking fish. So
it is definitely a merfolk kind of look.
Like, it's got the webbed fingers, and I really like the armor that they tried to depict with the fins.
Solid art, as you mentioned. Yeah.
And then the tentacles, because to grapple, like, it's great.
Yeah, I like. Okay, so here's the plot hook for this sucker.
Okay,
because I know that we hate the idea that it would be controlled by a kraken or something like that. Because, like, we love a good storm giant.
I know.
We love them being the top of the
They're
order
the top.
Here's the thing. As I mentioned, I always imagine them, of course, being on the coast in their little cave, hiding away in, like, solitude, but they have their cult that follows them, right? Mm-hmm. This would be a great introduction where the cult shifts, and there's, like normal peasants that are kind of noticing that there's a shift in the way the cult is operating, but they don't really know why, because there hasn't really been a change. And it's because the storm giant is now being controlled by a kraken or an aboleth or something along those lines, and it's now doing the bidding of a much greater evil, and so the cult shifts in terms of what they're doing and what they're asking for, and they become more egregiously dangerous to the surroundings around them. And so your job is to investigate why there was a shift in the cult and so on and so forth. And you're already scared, but you think that your big bad is going to be this storm giant that's wrathful or angry or needs to be, like, consoled or what have you. And you end up...
Let's go talk to them.
Let's go talk to them. You fight them. You're like, oh, it's the big bad evil thing. We've killed it. But now you've killed a servant of the Kraken. So it's kind of like, oh, shoot, there's a bigger monster. So that's a fun reveal. If you're doing like a coastal water game, this would be a fun one to throw in there. And it could also be one of those, like, side quests that the group can choose to investigate or not. You could have a bigger story going on, but you just hear about how there's a town with a bunch of cultists that are causing a bunch of mayhem and mischief, and they're starting to forget what's going on. There's a lot of psychic damage happening, and no one's really remembering what's happening in this town. Kind of similar to what Adam did with us with the false Hydra. Yeah. For anyone who's on the Patreon and stuff like that, we talked. There's a couple episodes about our false Hydra that we had to fight.
I still have emotional damage.
It was traumatic. Yeah, it was very traumatic. But this is where you can kind of implement some of that stuff without having to use something as scary as the false Hydra, right?
Yeah. So, and you could have villagers going out to sea and never coming back.
Yeah.
And like, it's these mysteries of they're being pulled, but then they don't quite understand why.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah. And their abilities, honestly, super cool, super frightening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like maybe today there's a lot of just feminine artistry going on. Like this one, again, maybe it's because the tentacles are like, the imagery looks like it's, you know, think of Medusa with the snakes, but it's tentacles. So you think feminine, like it looks feminine.
It does, yeah. So, and we did talk about this quite a bit, that we're glad about the equity that's happening within this book. I am sad that the art is, like, contentious because of the AI art issue that they had with this one, but I am glad that they lean towards a more equitable visual representation of the different species that we have.
Yeah.
So, because when you think giant, you will always, like, it's just a masculine thing in your brain. It's like, it's almost like a weird, unfortunate, natural thing to do. And so I'm glad that this book kind of breaks that barrier and helps us really realize the equity behind it. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that too.
Me too.
And lots of the types of giants we've talked about lately, we've never really talked about when it dies, whether you can loot anything or take its
stuff. Yeah.
And I do feel like in the ones today, like we've talked about the weapons, the scythe. I don't know about the scythe. You might have to be super fucking evil to be able to make it do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But this one, like this trident is like, it's a legit trident. Like it's just, because of the combo with the Storm Herald, it has, you know, the ability to do the psychic damage. But I feel like you could also just destroy it and have a really cool looking trident on it. Like it's just like the classic trident. It still does 3d6 piercing damage plus whatever your dex or strength is, depending on what you are.
The sheer size of it, though, if you were to try wield that,
right?
It would be.
But I feel like a barbarian would try it, or a 100% would be like,
I can do that.
Yeah.
But I feel like that would be, if this thing was to die and you got this trident, I feel like it would be a group effort to find someone that could break it down and take its components and make something that works.
Yeah.
And that might be a good secondary adventure, right?
Yeah. Bringing in artificer. Maybe an artificer could make daggers out of the points or something that could also do lightning damage. Something like that. Because I feel like we end up picking up and looting things and then we use it as is. And then if it's not usable as is, it's like, oh, okay, well, I take it anyways. But it's like, okay, well, this is a huge aberrations trident.
How are you carrying that?
Yeah. So I get it. Like, sometimes you just have to be like, sure, okay, go ahead. But it could be a fun way to try and integrate other aspects of other players. And like an artificer. I'm focusing on that because I'm trying to bring back my artificer-esque of my player character right now. Because it's also multi-class paladin, multi-class warlock, because Adam.
Because Adam.
So it's like, how do we bring back the aspects of like the creativity to try and, if you have managed to defeat a Storm Herald, what do you get from that? Yeah.
Well, it's going to be the sucker for sure. And like, back to your point about like how when we loot things and how we break them down, like even for player characters in the current campaign that we're playing in, my character was given the shield of her best friend who died, but my character is a 5'1" half elf, and the character who died was yours, which was a 7-foot Loxodon.
Yes.
So the shield she was gifted was twice her size.
Yes.
So, and it took a couple of, she carried it around until like they ended up getting to a place where she found someone who could break it down into a pair of brass knuckles and a buckler. Mm-hmm. And so she made it into something that she could use, because that's what basically the note from her friend, like, but from your character.
The emotional damage.
Correct. So, and now your character's alive. Don't even get me started. Sorry, I can't.
Sidebar, yes.
Oh my god. Anyway,
I know.
But that's something you can do with like the weapons, like even the scythes.
I know.
Of the ones that we talked about. Like, what happens to those weapons if you were to randomly be successful at destroying something like this?
Because I don't think you could destroy the Shrouded one if you could. Mm-hmm. If you did, how do you leave the stick part of the scythe where like maybe the souls have dissipated and so the scythe part is missing. How do you just leave that there?
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
You take it and figure something out.
Yeah,
Because you can't just leave it
something
there.
bigger and scarier than you is going to find it and use it.
Yeah.
So, like, you have to do something with these kinds of things.
Yes.
And, like, again, since we're near the end of our season, we never really talked about, to your point, what do we do with these giants' weapons that we cannot wield and are excruciatingly dangerous if we were to suddenly be lucky enough to actually destroy them?
Yes.
So it would almost be like you would want to have a fire giant on hand that could reforge this shit.
Yeah. Yes. And maybe that's like part of the next phase of your campaign.
Yeah.
Is if you ultimately survive and you defeat one of these, like how do you change the weapon into something else that isn't as evil or can be used in a different way? Or maybe you do all of those things, but yet those daggers are still corrupted.
Yeah.
And so slowly your rogue becomes more fiendish, more evil.
Yeah, because I know the hand wave thing DMs like to do is that obviously once the weapon is no longer attuned to whatever it was attached to, it loses a lot of its magical capabilities until you can attune to it. And if you can't attune to it, then obviously you cannot wield it the same way they did.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I can't take it to someone who knows how to craft these items.
Yeah.
And build me something else.
Yes.
Right?
And at the same time, if you have very good, lawful characters in your party, player characters, where you have a cleric where it's like, I can't leave this in existence.
I have to destroy it.
And I can't also accept that it's transformed into another weapon someone else in my party uses.
Yeah, especially the scythe and XYZ. They'd be like,
Right?
no, we're destroying it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so my next quest, and like you guys can come if you want, is to find a way to truly destroy it.
Yeah.
And so it might be seeking out deities and gods and some other way to cast it into the fire. You know?
Yeet. Yeah.
So then, sidebar for the next 6 months of your campaign is just to destroy the fucking scythe from the Shrouded one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is the best part of D&D is like a slight decision because of the integrity or backstory of one character could fucking derail the whole campaign for months.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, I want to do this. And if everyone's like, yeah, okay.
Whatever.
And the DM's like, cool.
Sure, I'll give you this dangerous, death-defying
All right,
weapon.
here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair
It's
enough.
the best part. Anyway, we digress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've covered a lot in this season. A lot. And so we've also covered a lot of giants in many episodes that are outside of the Giant series. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to cover just in a summary of those. So if you are inspired and you would like to learn more about different aspects of different giants, episode 258 includes, firstly, the Troll Amalgam, which is a creature that is created when multiple trolls fuse together during regeneration. It's disgusting. The art is decent. And also we cover the Troll Mutate, which is a creature that is created when a troll regenerates in the presence of corrupted energy, like what is found near a gate to the far realm. And it gains mutations such as stretchable bodies or wings, and they also can gain extra body parts. I remember when we were talking about this, it was just like, it just escalated.
We're like,
like,
yay.
oh my god, this is disgusting.
Too much.
Yeah. We've also covered fiendish giants in episode 259. The Mouth of Grulantor, which is a hill giant that basically eats any and all kinds of food, including rotten and diseased, to the point they become sickened. And when they don't recover, they are then separated and starved to the point of madness. Lovely. And then they're typically having to be shackled or to avoid it killing other hill giants or going on a killing spree.
Fair enough.
It's just like it's like a chained beast.
Yeah.
In that same episode, we covered Echo of Demogorgon, When Ettins devote themselves to the two-headed Demogorgon, they may transform them into monstrous echoes of their patron.
Yeah.
The Fire Hellion as well. When a fire giant enters a pact with a powerful evil to learn more tactics, over time they become corrupted and become a fiend. The Stalker of Baphomet, stone giants that are mesmerized by the horned king Baphomet mazes, and they enter his service. While refining the artistic craft, stone giants will also hunt in the mazes, and Baphomet rewards them by transforming them into demonic stalkers. The Fury of the Kashishi. Don't come at me for the pronunciation. Frost giants who worship the demon lord Kashishi are given supernatural strength and bloodlust, but their souls are slowly taken away to fuel their own strength. They become fiends that only wish for combat. In episode 260, we talk about Fomorians, the Fomorian deep crawler. Their bodies have adapted to crawling through the Underdark tunnels and are able to grip the walls and the ceilings. The Fomorian noble escaped the assault on the Feywild and the curse, and they resemble giant elves. The Fomorian warlock of the dark. They form pacts with entities of the Underdark and gain power over shadows. In episode 261, we talk about Colossi. First, the Runic Colossus, where all of the Storm Giant families combined efforts to protect their ancient empire, building the Everlasting Guardian, 30 foot tall, and regards all non-giants as threats. This was really cool. It's like finally where all of the Ordning bands together and contributes their bits.
Yeah.
And they create this very intimidating guardian. We also covered a Flesh Colossus, where wizard giants create a colossal construct from the flesh of their fallen comrades, sewn together over an adamantine skeleton, with one stone sphere infusing with the spirits of the elemental plane acting as its core. Very Tony Stark again. It's like that core that like burns.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately, there's a plethora of giant animals. Some are beasts, some are fae, and some are monstrosities. And we didn't cover these in detail, but they are there for like our ability to adapt and use them as we want to. This includes dinosaurs, and there's a whole bunch of different dinosaurs, which Adam will love.
And that's
probably why he wanted to talk about the giant animals. It's like, look at all the dinosaurs.
So many dinos.
Yes. And there's also giant goose, giant lynx, giant ox, giant ram, giant tick, grinning cat, spotted lion, and storm crowd. And there's just like there's too many to cover, but there's plenty more in this book and plenty more of inspiration.
Yeah. And
overall, I feel like as we navigated through this book, and you and I were the ones that did the like quick judgmental on Glory of the Giants when it was first released, as it should have been. I feel like overall it's a heavy love for this book. A few things could have been added, a few things could have been tweaked, but generally we love it.
Yeah. I'm very happy with this book. I'm very happy with what it provided us. Like, there's a lot here. Like, even when my friend started playing in a campaign, I was like, hold on, there's so much Giants information that I can give you, because I just read this tiny little book that gives you all this information and all these new Giants. And as much as we complained, I know in a couple of previous episodes where it didn't provide us a lot of lore that we want to see, it provided us enough as a jumping point and some inspirational places that we can start. And if you have enough knowledge that there's more out there, it'll force you to start to look for it. Yeah. Right? So I'm happy with it. Yeah. Well, Casey, that's it for our last episode of Giants. This is the final season of us discussing Giants. So now that it's all over, let's talk about some final thoughts here. So I know we've talked a lot about Giants, but let's focus on this last season. So in this last season, what was your favorite Giant?
Well, I always will have the love of fire giants.
Of course.
It's
Same thing like frost giants for me. Like,
Yeah.
it still hasn't changed.
It
And I
just-
think that's very solid. Yeah.
Yes, we're consistent. I did really appreciate the addition of the spellcasters as a whole.
Yeah.
But the fire giant forge collar,
Mm.
like, was just really interesting, and you could do a lot with it.
Yeah. No,
That was my fave.
I really liked our talk of the scions and the fact that they had like those cradles. You remember, like
Yes.
that stuff was really cool. And I think I liked them because it was very much a tie back to their elemental like structure. But that made me like the Hulks more. We talked about those recently in a previous episode, but I feel like it really takes you back to their elemental roots,
Yes.
which is required for giants
Yeah.
in terms of I am this way because I am of the earth. I am this way because I am of the fire. I am this way because I am of water, like, or frost or what have you, right?
Mhm.
Elements have personalities, and I think they did a really good job in this book of bringing those out. So I think in the Scions and the Hulks, I really liked that aspect of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And it leveled the giant aspect up with the scions, where it has the cradle, and it was like really high CRs.
Yeah.
Like you like it's starting to impact it, like it was like layer actions or layer effect, which we haven't really seen much for giants particularly. So it entered that world, which I appreciated.
Exactly, right? What was your least favorite giant?
Well, I know the season was strategically leveling up as we go.
Yeah.
And of course we ended on undead, which
Yeah.
just is the combination perfectness.
Yeah. The creme de la creme.
Yeah. And so I think along the way, the Furbolg and like Fenzir stuff was fine, but I think it bored us.
Yes.
At the time, because we just know what we know.
We didn't know what we were getting
okay,
into.
sure, you want to include this, but
Here's some inspirations, but at the end of the day, you bore me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we get to fucking undead and hulks and all of that, it's like, okay, we're forgetting about all of that
I
stuff.
really don't care about that stuff.
Yeah. What about you?
Mine was obviously, and people will remember this, I
know what you're saying.
we know where we're going. So I just mentioned that I love the fact that we tie giants to elements. It is not the element that is evil. Okay? So just change the direction of the wording.
What, evil water?
Evil
didn't
air?
sit well?
None of it sits well, Casey. And here's the thing. I liked them as a whole. I did not care for the fact that it was considered the element was evil. The element is the element. It is the person that makes the element what the element is. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't with the order of wording.
Like, why was that the decision?
Yeah, it just get bent. Anyways, what was our favorite wine?
Well, I must say, we started off a little rough.
We did, because I was going to say, what is our least favorite wine? I think we will agree. It was episode 1.
Yeah,
wasn't
like
it?
the rosé box wine
Oh.
to go with the bag theme.
Diet of Fire. Yeah.
I have never thrown away wine,
I know.
and I couldn't finish that box.
Oh, you can't even use it as cooking wine. It was that bad.
Like, and even my partner had some. I was like, hey, we need to, like, yes, I got it for the podcast. We drank it during the podcast, but, like, I have a box. And I was like, here. And he was like, what happened here? Like, he couldn't even drink it as well. And I have made him a wine snob. And he's like, no.
No amount of breathing will make this wine
No
taste
amount
good.
of breathing.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
a wine that we liked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we finished strong. Like, I really loved the big crush that we did in last episode.
Yeah. The one that we connected the fact that we're talking
Yeah.
about undead and giants together.
Yeah,
Our absolute love.
merging our loves. It was a great wine.
That's
Needed
fair.
to breathe slightly, but was a great wine.
That's true. So even though the elemental evils were the ones that I hated the most, the wine that we had during the episode was my favorite, which was the Diablo.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
Diablo was great.
Because we were trying to find out like wines that would represent evil.
Yes.
And the Diablo one was really good. I know I've had it before at some point in time in my life. But again, beautiful label, beautiful wine. It was just one of those ones that I really like. A little bit of sweet, a little bit of like, it's not too sweet because I'm not a sweets person, but that was a good solid one.
Agreed.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up talking about giants?
Well, I must say, I think we ended right with all the undead.
It felt full circle.
It felt full circle. I really loved the undead in all aspects. Yeah, we had our little, like, ya bore me
Of course.
moments.
We always do.
But I think they did it right with bringing in an undead option for every family in the Ordning.
Yeah, I think it was great.
And yes, it was a bit predictable in that, like, oh, Stone Giant undead does this. Makes sense. But that's what we needed. Like,
Correct.
and that's what people need, just to be like, what would happen if this is undead? There you go.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's a lot of DMs out there over the years that have, like, homebrewed undead versions of things we just did not have undead versions of.
Yeah.
And sometimes you would struggle with what that stat block would look like. How would that shift and change? And we definitely saw the stat block shift with the fact that they were undead, like lower decks, all these kinds of things. Like, like they thought about it in terms of what would happen to a giant if it became undead and how would that affect it, right?
Yeah, and they like added and escalated that recharge ability.
Yeah.
It was like it got more and more frightening and more challenging as it went up, which I can respect, because then it allows, like, if the DM's rolling good, you're still fucked.
Yep.
But also just gives that level of it may not happen that often in a combat scenario. So I think they balanced it very well with being, like, mid-tier in CR overall. Yeah. We never, with the undead, we never really didn't get to, like, 25 CR. Yeah. We were, like, 17, I think, as the highest. So, yeah, I think it was fair.
Yep, we're out there. All right, so that is all for this episode of Season 3 of our Giants series. We'll be back in a couple weeks with more updates. Wait, hold on. No, we won't.
We're not
going to be back. That was it, ladies and gentlemen. We're no longer coming back with more Giants.
We have drank all the wine.
We have consumed all the wine. We've talked about all the Giants. We will not be back. Ever.
So thanks for listening to this episode of the It's a Mimic podcast. If you'd like to support us, we have a donate button on our website, itsamimic.com, and a Patreon. If you'd like to discuss what you've heard here today, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and at r/itsamimic, and patrons can chat us up on our patron-only Discord channel. For other episodes on other kinds of monsters, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast apps. Thanks again for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're gonna get.
And that's it.
Whew.
How are you feeling? Sad?
I mean, there's always a bit of that.
Right?
We thought it was over, then Big Bees came out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't over. And honestly, who knows what the future will bring.
You're not wrong.
Adam will concoct some other series for us.